Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the new channel. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jesse. I was the creator of Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show, and on that channel you can find around 63 videos where I talk about my time spent as a correction officer at TDCJ, also known as Texas Department of Criminal Justice, to the old hands, TDC. I started that channel back in April, and it couldn't be any more amateur than you get. It was just me sitting in a chair up in the room talking about experiences. Took off very slow, picked up speed a little bit, and I had intentions of improving the channel, adding animations, animatronics, all that kind of stuff. Well, that just never planned out, or panned out, I should say. Just couldn't really get into the animations of it. I really just enjoyed telling stories. This video here is kind of serving as an introduction. I haven't abandoned that channel by any means whatsoever. The content's going to stay up. It's going to stay where it is for anybody to like, subscribe, watch, comment, ask questions about, flame on. This new channel that I'm doing right here, I'm abandoning videos. Okay, in this, it's simply going to be audiobook style format where we get down into just the raw content of me talking about experiences as a corrections officer at TDCJ. I think that by doing this, instead of focusing so much on the screen and what I look at, I can kick back, relax, get comfortable in my recliner here as I am right now, and really remember the stories as they were and give you guys the entertainment of what it was like when I was involved in that industry, expose the realities of what it's like as a corrections officer, where they differ from those on TV, as well as the documentaries that you see, and just recount that time of my life. It was a difficult time. So what we're going to do, wherever I left off story-wise at Jesse's Occupational Awareness, we're going to leave that where it is. We're going to hit the rewind button. So for those of you who were long-term viewers of the channel, we're going to go back to the beginning. For those who are brand new, we're starting at the beginning. How I was involved in TDCJ. How did I get started with that? Well, on my drive to work every day through Beaumont, there are 3 prison units there in the area. You've got the Gist unit, the LeBlanc unit, and Stiles. Gist and LeBlanc are state jail facilities. That's a whole different kind of offense. The Stiles unit was the maximum security facility. That's the one where, I'll just say it, they're all bad guys. Okay, whatever. That was where the bad guys went. And I had seen the facilities all the time because, well, they were on the way to work. And they would have signs posted out, now hiring, recruitment bonus, yada yada. I was interested in the career. I thought it would be a decent paying job. I thought it would be a lot like what you saw on TV. You know, just convicts doing their time, doing their own things, COs, not interacting with them too much, maybe getting into an occasional fight. I was about that at the time. I'm older now, not so much. Had no idea, really what I was going to be walking into. But it was a state of Texas job. It had a decent retirement. I was a reservist in the Coast Guard. It would be a chance to get an extra retirement going and extra money. I really didn't see how bad could the job actually be. It was around, I think, October 2012. There was a job fair that was going on in Beaumont, and I had taken a break from drilling. Drilling is when a reservist does their time with the Coast Guard. I had taken a break from drilling, and I decided, well, I'll go see what's down there, see what's up, what's going on. And there were all different kinds of employers at the job fair. Schwann Food Delivery Service, Verizon, a couple of different plants, the college, of course, Lamar University, and TDCJ had their booth set up. There was this older guy, heavy set, white dude, gray hair, sergeant, black female, CO5, and this taller black female who was a laundry service manager, LSM. Obviously, I didn't know what that was at the time. And they had all the paraphernalia. I think that's the right word. Propaganda, maybe that's a better word. Souvenirs, the things that you can take. They had the stress balls that you could squeeze, pins, little notepads, what else? Stickers, all that kind of stuff. They didn't have the forms that you needed to fill out. They had a piece of paper that had the TDCJ website links that you would go to that you could click on, and that's where you would download the paperwork. There were 5 forms that you needed. There was a state of Texas application, just blanket state of Texas application. That applies to everybody, state troopers, nurses, teachers, any kind of state job. One that specifically applied to TDCJ. One that involved if you were military, one that wanted your selective service information. All males over the age of 17 are required to register with selective service, so you can be brought into military, and I had registered in 1997. It was for males over the age of 17 to 25. I was well over 25 by that time, but I still went ahead and got that information. And for the life of me, I don't remember what the last form was. It was pretty easy to fill out. And I talked to the ones that were there, told them my situation, Coast Guard reservists, looking for some full-time employment. Sergeant gave me the rundown about what I could expect, how the recruitment process was. I left with a pretty good feeling. And when I got home, got on the computer, pulled up the forms, downloaded them, printed them out, filled them out, and mailed those off to the Human Resources office there in Huntsville, Texas. I believe it was the first prison that was established at TDCJ. It's called the Walls Unit. It's called that because there's a brick wall surrounding the actual facility, so it's vis-a-vis, in effect, a prison within a prison. And very historical, very old. I remember in Huntsville, it's next to this, I guess you'd call it a warehouse, abandoned, and it's full of bats. And the bats shit. Okay? When you walk past it, it stinks so freaking bad. They use this for something. I don't know what. Maybe there's an old hand on here that can tell me. But I just remember walking in between the buildings when I was at the academy, and it would smell so freaking bad in that area, especially during the summer when it would get hot and that smell would warm up, and it was heavier than air, so it would kind of float down to the bottom instead of rise like oxygen does. God, it would just stink. So that was right across from where the Walls unit was. Anyway, I had mailed off that paperwork, and I waited. What I did in between that time, well, I just passed the time. We're not going to worry about that. I finally got a response back around March of 2013. It did take a pretty decent amount of time. And you got a paper letter in the mail, and it told you that your application had been approved. Strike that, reverse it. I've completely left a part out. Okay. I didn't mail it off then yet. Now I'm remembering. All right. Once I had printed all the paperwork off, you went to the TDCJ website. All this has changed now. You went to the TDCJ website, and you put in where your location was. In my case, it was Beaumont, Texas, and you requested a pre-screening. Pre-screening was, sorry, I'm tapping on my screen here. All right. A pre-screening was required back then. I understand it's not now if you're prior military. If you have your honorable discharge from the military, you don't have to go through this. Back then, everybody did. You scheduled, it was a CO screening. You scheduled that and you went in and you took a test. Okay. You would find whatever unit was going to be hosting it. At the time that I did it, it was the GIST unit, which is the one, LeBlanc was the one that was closest to the highway. The GIST unit was the one furthest to the back. And across the street was Styles. So you scheduled a time and date for that. I don't remember what day it was. I just remember it was around 8 in the morning. And you brought your paperwork with you that I had already filled out, the ones I described earlier. And it gave you a brief rundown of what the test was going to be. There was going to be a memory exam. You looked at 3 pieces of paper and it had pictures on it. The only one I can remember, it was think of a squad of military members, 3 lines of individuals, this case being convicts, 3 lines of men lined up with corrections officers on horseback holding rifles. That was one of them. You had to stare at the pictures for about 5 minutes, memorize them, and then once the 5 minutes was up, you flipped those pieces of paper over, and then you answered multiple choice questions. How many corrections officers were on horseback? And it would go A through D, 1, 2, 3, 4, answer that. How many inmates had black shirts on? 0, that kind of thing. Okay. Once you were done answering that, we turned the paperwork in, and I don't remember what her name was. She was a human resources representative. Her title was recruiter. Now, don't think like military recruiter where you call them, you have phone conversations, you meet all the time. This was the only time, and she made this perfectly clear, this was the only time that we were ever going to see or interact with her. Beverage of champions. We turned the paperwork in, and she graded it right then and there on the spot. She had an answer sheet. She put your paper down on her desk. She put her answer sheet over it, and that showed her what was right. If you had passed, she gave you a time to return. I want to say my time was around 11:30. I know that I had enough time. I was able to leave the facility, go down to the road to the gas station. It was a raceway. I got me a nasty hot dog, hung out, messed around on the phone, went back to the unit, had to go through pat down and all that. That's what I didn't mention at first. You have to go through pat down every time you go in and out of the facility. And got to the back, and we did a quick interview. And she asked me, what do I expect the job at TDCJ will be? And I gave her what my impression was. Corrections officers are there to supervise inmates. We let them in and out of their cells, there for their health and well-being, yada, yada. You get the idea. And there was a piece of paper that you signed that was your, how did they word it? Preconditional employment acceptance is the best way I can word it out. It was one of those, they're initially accepting you an offer, but it's not finalized until you actually show up to the academy and sign the paperwork. So I had filled that out, and then on there it lists pick 3 units. It had every unit in TDCJ, which at the time was 122 facilities. And it said pick 3 units that you choose to work at. They were good about getting it down to where you lived. You could apply anywhere. I lived in Beaumont. I could have applied at Fort Stockton, which is in El Paso. The Cofield unit, I don't know where it is. Midland, which is up around northwest Texas, going up toward Oklahoma. Okay, I could have applied at any of those, but I picked Styles, Gist, and the Blah. And when she saw the choices, she said, you can more than likely expect to start off at Styles. That's where COs are needed. That's where you're going to get your most experience. And I said, well, let's go ahead and rank that my number one. And she gave me kind of a 2-second stare. And in her mind, I knew she was going, got him. So that was what I picked. Submitted that paperwork, put it all off in the packet. She wouldn't mail it for us. I had to mail it off myself. She did give us the manila envelope, but it wasn't postage paid. Okay, so I had to go home, get my own postage, took it to the post office, mailed it off. Great. Waited. All right. I worked. I did make some money. Okay, I had to make a living, of course, in addition to drilling with Coast Guard time. I'm not worried about what I did during then. And in March was when I got the call. Hey, we have an acceptance date for you on, I believe it was, I don't remember the exact day. It's been 8 years ago. Let's say April 1st to report to the academy at either Rocheron or Huntsville. Call whatever number it was, Human Resources to Huntsville. So I called the Huntsville Human Resources, told them I wanted to go to the Huntsville Academy. We finalized the date. Great, cool. I asked them what should I bring. They said they would mail me everything that I needed to show up with. Great. Got the thing in the mail. The papers that I had sent back, they had sent to them. They had sent those back to me so I could bring that to the academy, and it had a list of what we were going to be doing for the first day at the academy. First day that we showed up, it said show up in, what was it, business casual attire, meaning don't show up in shorts and flip-flops, wear something appropriate. I wore blue jeans, ironed out polo shirt, black Bates boots, spit shine to a mirror polish, brought a bag with a change of clothes, and it said to bring some gym clothes because we were going to do in the PAT, the physical agility test. All right. So at that point, everything had been accepted. I wasn't a paid employee yet at the time. It was just going to be until you showed up and you passed the PAT, that was when you were a paid employee. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here. The next one that we pick up on, I'll start off with getting to the academy, the first day, how it went from there, and the experiences from that. I hope that everyone enjoys just the audio and the visual that I'm going to have in the background. This is a lot easier for me talking on this. I feel like it flows a lot more naturally, not having to stare at the actual camera. I'm not doing animatronics or anything. I'm just here to give you guys straight up stories of my experiences. If you've heard this and been there, done that, I'm sorry. If you heard it and you enjoy hearing it again, from a different perspective, one that flows better, great. And for those of you that are new, welcome, enjoy. We're going to have hours and hours upon hours, not all at once, of content.